So yesterday we talked about ellipse. We did the fun thing over there. I'm not sure I remembered to use the word focus in this class, but those two places that we put the tape down, those 2 points, those are called the focus points, okay? I think we did cover that eventually, but I'm not sure when I was over there that I talked about that. So it's on the reference sheet and it looks like this. And up in the corner, what does your reference sheet say again? A is always the bigger one, right? So when the bigger one is underneath the X, then it's going to go longer this way, like the X-axis does. And when the bigger number is underneath the Y over here, it's going to go longer up and down. Now, because it's addition in the middle, it can be in any order. So it's possible they could even just switch these around, okay? What is true about both of these, besides that they have an X minus H, a Y minus K, and an A and a B? This side always has to be what? Equals 1, okay? That's so that we can have a common way to express the stretch. We're going to always make it equal to 1. All right, so this problem was done for you already at the top of your notes worksheet yesterday, and we skipped over it. I'm just going to go through real quick. The center from the equation here was at -2, 1. Oh, that would have messed me up on a quiz. Does anybody see what they did? Yeah, they have the X's back here and the Y's here. The one with the X is always the X coordinate, and the one with the Y is your Y coordinate. So they went left to -2 and up 1. Right in here somewhere was their center, because they're counting by 2's again. Crazy graph paper. Then in the Y direction, how much did they go? Do you remember how this works? A squared is 25, so A is 5, and that was under the Y, so they went up 5 and down 5, and that's where they got these two vertices. Then for some reason, the book likes to call these on the minor axis the co-vertices, like they're less important. And B here would be 3, so it went 3 left and 3 right, and that's where they got these. And you are not going to have to do these two things for me, but you are going to have to find the focus point. Can someone shut the door? The focus point, is anybody looking at their pink sheet? The focus point is always on the major axis inside of the ellipse, and it has to do with C, and C is found by what? Remember, it's a really weird version of Pythagorean theorem. It's a squared minus b squared. So on this question, there was a 25 and a 9. Is that what that says? Okay. 25 is a squared minus 9 is b squared. They're already squared. So if I would have subtracted there, is that 16, guys? So C would be 4. And so I'd go 4 units from the center, which would be up and down. So it would be the H, comma, K plus or minus 4. The C goes there. So we had -2, 1. Up or down 4 from there would have been -2, 5. And -2, -3. Okay, couple things. That recipe sheet is just that, a recipe sheet. You can use it to do all of these problems. I like to teach this conceptually. I don't like to just look at the recipe, okay? So I would have said I'm going up and down, so I'm going to add it to the Y, etc. But when you get to this point, you do have to write those out, okay? Do not leave it 1 plus or minus 4 on a quiz. You're pre-calc students, I know you can determine what that means. All right, we're flipping all the way to the number 3 on the back. 5B number 3, where is the center here? -2, -1. We're counting by 2's again for some reason. -2, -1 would be right here. What else can someone tell me? A squared is 25, so A is 5, which means we go 5 in what direction? It's under the x, so it goes left and right 5 each way. So 2, 4, 5, 2, 4, 5. Now the recipe for those vertices, those are the vertices, because it is opening sideways, what does the recipe say, guys? I want you to be looking for this. Vertices on an ellipse that's going to be longer sideways, where A is under X. I'm thinking it says H plus or minus A comma K. Is that what it says? Okay. So I can go over here and give you a little guidelines. What's H? -2. What's K? -1. A was 5. B is going to be, anybody know? 3. And we'll find C in a minute. All right. Back here, if I put the plus or minus 5 to find those vertices on the X coordinate, what is that going to become? Anybody quick? +3, -1, and -7, -1. Okay. Next thing we're going to do is the co-vertices. How far out are we going in the y direction, up and down? Well, b squared is 9, so b is 3. So that's 3 up, which is 1, 2, 3 right here. 1, 2, 3. The formula on the sheet will say H comma K plus or minus B. Is that what it says? Somebody checking me? Okay. So for our problem, it's -2 comma -1 plus or minus 3, which becomes -2, -4, and -2, +2 in any order. Now, could you just figure that out by graphing with some good graph paper without using the recipe? That's what I prefer. Do you know what I'm saying? When you went 5 either way and 3 either way, you just could have figured out the ordered pairs. I just hate that this graph paper counts by 2s. That'll get me every time. All right, we're not done. What do we still have to find? The foci. So we need C, and that is A squared minus B squared equals C squared. So 25 minus 9, guys, is what? 16 is C squared. C is 4. Almost said 8. It's going to be a good day. And which way am I going to find the foci? Yes, left and right, because it's on the major axis, or the longer one. So I would go 4, 2, 4. Be right here. 2, 4. Now, I'm not... Did I graph that point wrong, guys? This one? Let's see. I was supposed to go 3, 2, 3. It should be right there, shouldn't it? Oh, I was going 5? Okay. I went a little too far. Okay. Nothing like messing up the video. All right. And then it turned out that C was here. I'm not super picky about you graphing C accurately or the foci accurately on the graph, but it does help you to put a dot there so that you make sure it's inside. It should always be inside the circle. Or the ellipse. I didn't say the word circle. Kidding. All right. Now we need the actual ordered pairs. And since they were left and right, that would be added onto the X. So does it say for foci, guys, H plus or minus C comma K? Did I get it right? Foci? Yeah. Okay. So -2 plus 4 is 2, -1, and -2 minus 4 is -6, -1. Any order. All right. That's a lot of points and a lot of writing on that slide. All right, kind of getting the hang of it. Okay, so let's try number 4. And then we're going to have to practice our completing the square for a good time. So tell me real fast, where's the center? Yes, be careful. This is H and this is K. And A and B, guys? A is the bigger one, remember? So it's 8, and B would be 5. On your sheet, this is switched because they never moved the y to the front, so be careful, but it is, that's why I like to just think about the concept. So left 3 and up 2 is here. Then I'm going 8 up and down, right? Does it go off the top? Oh, I didn't, yes, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, thank you. It's 2, -3, so it's 2 to the right and down 3 is the center. You gotta switch it, H and then K, Hofbauer, okay, and then up and down 8 would be 2, 4, 6, 8, right up there, I think. 2, 4, 6, 8, it just fits. It's in the middle there. And then left and right 5, 2, 4, 5, 2, 4, 5. I do not give you graph paper that counts by 2 on the quiz. And if you want graph paper, there's always graph paper in the back at the table back there. All right, so help me finish vertices, co-vertices, and foci. So from the center, the vertices are up and down. How much? 8, didn't we go up and down 8? And that is on the y coordinate because it was up and down. So those become 2, -11, and 2, 5. Yep, that looks right for our picture. The co-vertices are left and right. So 2 or H plus or minus B. 2 plus or minus 5, comma, -3, the K stays the same. So I'm getting 7, -3, and -3, -3. Does that look right? Looks pretty good for my picture, right? Okay, the foci, I need to figure out C. So I'm going to go over here and do a little work. A squared minus B squared equals C squared. A lot of these don't come out nice, guys. I don't know if this one does. 64 minus 25 is 39. If it simplifies, you need to simplify it, but I don't think 39 does, so we have square root of 39. So which way are we adding those on? Yes. Go ahead and ask. You do when it's, because it's underneath the y value, so it's going longer in the y direction. On your sheet, it is the one on the right because A is underneath the y value. You okay now? Okay. Good question. Great question. All right, so the foci are on the major axis, so they are going up and down as well. So they're getting added onto the y. So we would have 2, -3 plus the square root of 39, and 2, -3 minus the square root of 39. I would not be picky if you left that one -3 plus or minus the square root of 39, because it's just an ugly number. You may want to type it in real quick to get a decimal. Does anybody do that? -3 plus the square root of 39? Just to make sure it's staying inside the figure. So we'd go +2 and then up to +2, 4, 3 point something, so in here. And did you do minus or not? Okay, down 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 something, okay? So they are inside. That's just the thing to check, is that they stay inside the figure. Everybody good? All right, now what we're gonna do is we're gonna practice completing the square. I'm gonna do this one as an example for you. We did one yesterday where we had to complete the square with coefficients. You're gonna move the 4x squared and the 24x's together. And then you're gonna move the 9y squared and the -36y together. And you're going to move the constant over to the other side, so it would become what? A negative 36, okay. Then you're going to take the 4 out because you can only complete the square when there is a coefficient of 1. But you do have to factor it out of both of these. And then you put a blank in. These two back here, oops, and I'm going to need to add it on this side. These two back here, I'm taking a 9 out. And then I'm going to add something over here. All right, talk me through this. How do you complete the square on this? So you get x plus squared, and x plus 3 times x plus 3 would make this a 9. Now there is still a 4 out front, so what do we add to the other side? 4 times 9. And I'm going to write 4 times 9, so remember where that came from. And then back here, we have plus 9y squared, oops, just y minus, watch your signs, this is, half of that is minus 2. Squared would be, and then 9 times 4 means we're adding a 36. These two, negative 36 plus 36 is 0. We end up with a 36. Now, if this is an ellipse, what do we have to make it equal to? 1. So what do we have to do? Divide everything by 36. Look what happens. 4 goes into 36. So we end up with x plus 3 squared over 9. 9 goes into 36 4 times. Equals 1. Answer me one question. Is this longer across or up and down? This is underneath the x, so it's longer across, which means it's the one on the left or the right here? On the left on your notes. Okay, ready to try this? The only one we're going to do on 5B is number 8. The first two are circles. Number 7 is a parabola, and we're not doing parabolas yet, so I want you definitely to skip 7. We're going to do number 8. What can we take out? Oh, are these in order already? Nice. What can we take out of the x's? Okay, so we're not going to, just going to take out the 4. So we'll have x squared plus 2x plus blank. All right, then we go to the y's. What are we going to take out of the y's? What, the leading coefficient to just be a 1, so you got to take out whatever's in front of that squared term. So squared minus 6y. And then what are we doing with this 11? So it's a positive 11 on the other side. Versus number 8. Brandon, you doing this with us? All right. So we have a 4. What happens when we complete this square here? Half of this becomes plus 1. When you square 1, it's not 2. What do you get? It's just 1. And then added to the other side is a 4 times 1, or just a 4. Back here we have a 5. Completing the square in the green parenthesis would be y what? Minus 3 squared becomes a 9, and 5 times 9 is 45. So I had 45 and 4 is 49, 59, 60. Did anybody else get 60 over there? Okay. What do we have to divide everything by? 60, because it's got to equal 1. 4 goes into 60 how many times? 5 goes into 60 12 times. Now, that would not be fun to graph because A and B aren't perfect squares, right? But in terms of being able to get that one in the form, it worked out fine, and it is an ellipse, okay? Eventually, when we've learned all the different kinds, you're going to have to complete the square and at the end determine if it's a parabola, a circle, an ellipse, or a hyperbola. But that's not yet. All right. Quickly turn to page 6A, please. And I don't think we have time to do both, so would you rather do number 1 or number 2? Anybody care? You want to do 1? Okay. What can we take out of the x's here? Well, maybe we should rearrange it quick. 4x squared minus 8x plus 9y squared minus 36y equals negative 4. Now, what can I take out of the x's? So I'll have 4 times x squared minus 2x plus blank plus, nope, it's got to have the squared term cannot have a coefficient other than 1. So we have to take out what out of these? 9. Everybody okay? That'll leave y squared minus 4y plus blank. And I have a negative 4 on the other side that I'm going to have to add some blanks to, and I don't have room. Okay. Complete the square here. Anybody? X minus 1, quantity squared, puts a 1 in this blank, but a 4 on the other side over here. And then we have 9 out in front, and a y minus half of that is 2 squared becomes a 4, and 9 times 4 is, so over here we nicely have a negative 4 plus 36, which is just 36. And if we divide everything by 36, making me real nervous, Destiny. X minus 1 quantity squared, 4 goes into 36 9 times, 9 goes into 36. Okay. So, I want to do the rest of this problem. Where's the center? Okay, so H is 1, K is 2. Did you guys get 1, 2 as the center? Okay, A squared is 9, so A is 3. B squared is 4, so B is 2. Should we find C before we go any further? I don't have much room. A squared minus B squared, so 9 minus 4. A squared minus B squared would be 9 minus 4 is 5. So square root of 5 is C. So now, if you just want to follow a recipe, you can. Which way is this one longer? Horizontally, so it's the one on the left. Okay. The vertices, co-vertices, and foci we need. I'm going to do it conceptually. It's 1 to the right and up 2. Then I am supposed to go in the x direction 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, which tells me that those vertices are at negative 2, 2, 2, 3, 4, 2. Should have been 3 added on here or subtracted from here. Yes. What? Yes, it's a lot easier when you have a nice graph. You're absolutely right. The co-vertices are up and down, how much? 2 units. So we're adding and subtracting onto the y here. So we'd have 1, 0 and 1, 4. Then we can draw it. And which way should the foci go? Left and right, because they're on the longer one. So it would be Left and right means we're going to add them onto the x. So 1 plus the square root of 5, and the 2 from the vertices stays, and 1 minus the square root of 5, comma 2. I didn't have a lot of room, or I would have written the recipe out here in front of each one. Do you know what I'm talking about? You can copy it right off the pink sheet. Anybody get a decimal? 1 plus the square root of 5, 2.2, 3.2 maybe? So it would be over here. And 1 minus the square root of 5, negative 1.2, I'm guessing? Okay. So they are inside the figure. How you feeling? Okay? What? You don't like the foci? Okay. But you do get to keep the reference sheet, okay? So you will get to use the reference sheet, and the definition of foci is right on there. All right, now we're gonna go to number, well, I have a quick example, and then we're gonna do some where you have to write equations, because that is the second part of the lesson, is that you have to be able to write the equations from the information. Whether you sketch or not is up to you. A sketch helps me immensely. It doesn't have to be super accurate, but this says, my example has a vertex at -6 and up 2, and then that's one end of a major axis, and -6 and down 8 is the other end. That's the major axis, which means those are the vertices, right, guys? Definition of vertices that are end at the ends of the major axis. The minor axis goes from -3, -3 to -9, -3 this way. Okay, so my picture is horrendous. But what can you tell me? Where are you going to find the center? You have to know the center. The center is the midpoint of either axis, right? And if you're really smooth, you can figure it out by looking, these lined up at what? -6. And these lined up at -3. But if you look, if you added those, you'd get -12 divided by 2 is -6. If you added the y values, you get -6 divided by 2 is -3. And the same thing works here. All right, so somehow we had to find the center. Then we need to find A and B. Anybody have a definition of A we could use? I can tell you conceptually, but let's not worry about that right now. What is the definition when it's longer up and down? Look on your sheet. When it's longer up and down, what is the definition or recipe for the vertices? When it's longer up and down. All right, so what numbers do we know right now? This is the center, so that's H and K. So we have -6, comma -3 plus or minus A. And those turned out to be at -6,2 or -6,8. Anybody figure out what's happening? Okay, -3 plus 5 would be 2, -3 minus 5 would be 8. And you could have certainly written that and figured out what it is. A is 5. All right, we need B. Those are the covertices. What's the definition for covertices? So -6 plus or minus B, comma -3 became the covertices, which are at -9, -3. We'll just use one of them. So 3. It doesn't matter if it's positive or negative because we're going to put it in as a B squared anyway. So B is 3. So can anybody write the equation? Right? X minus 6 or minus -6 would be X plus 6. We're just putting the numbers now A, B, H, and K into the formula? Now be careful. In the X direction, it was what? Yeah, it's B, so it's 9 plus, and in the B direction, or in the A direction, I'm sorry, the longer direction was up and down. A squared is 25, and then you'd have a big old equals 1. Okay, I ran out of room. Number 3, you have, oh, this is an icky question. I feel like I should skip this one, but I won't. If these are the vertices, we need the midpoint. Here, I'll do my sketch quick. Negative 12 and up 6, and positive 4 and up 6. Those are the vertices. So I don't know what this thing looks like, but it's going like this, okay? So how do you find the midpoint? So this is negative 8 over 2 is negative 4, 12 over 2 is 6. So there's H and K because it's the midpoint. That making sense? Okay, what else can we do? If we know the vertices, what's the recipe for vertices? If it's vertices are sharing the same y value, right? So if you look, which of the vertices, the one on the left or the one on the right, share the same y value on your sheet? Look at the recipe. If you're totally confused, just look at the recipe for vertices. Which one is the same y value? The first one, right? Because it has a k, plain old k. So that's the kind we're doing. It's going across this way. So it's h plus or minus a comma k. Well, h was negative 4 plus or minus a comma 6. And that became, I'm just going to put one of them down. This is vertices now. I'm using the vertices. So negative 4 plus a became negative 12, or plus or minus a. What does that become? Yeah, it's negative 8, but it doesn't matter. We're going to square it, and a squared is going to be 64. It's because it should have been the minus 1, but it doesn't matter. Okay, now we have to figure out going the other direction, the b. Do we have anything that's going to help us find b? The answer is no. We're going to have to find C first. Look, the foci is at negative 10, 6. I told you this was an icky one. And at 2, 6. All right, so what's the recipe for foci? All right, so what is H? Plus or minus C, comma K is 6. And what is one of the foci? 2, 6, okay. So negative 4 plus or minus C became a 2. I should have just left this one plus or minus. All right, so if we add 4 over here, we get plus or minus C equals 6, which makes C squared 36. Do I need a C squared in my equation anywhere? But what will it help me find? It's going to find B squared. Okay, C squared equals A squared minus B squared. If I put a 36 over here, 64 here. If I subtract, someone help me, 28, negative 28 equals negative B squared, so B squared is 28. Okay, I'm glad we don't have to graph this accurately. So can anybody put together the equation? Which way is it going? Horizontally. So the equation on my paper says x minus h squared over a squared plus y minus k squared over b squared equals 1. Well, what's h? So that one's going to be plus 4, and the y is minus 6. A squared is 64, and b squared is 28. Okay, that was kind of painful. Yes, you're going to have to, not with the foci. Not with the foci. I don't think, okay? This one is much easier. I'm going to skip it and come back to it, though. And this one is, 5 is gross. Okay. I want to talk about eccentricity, and then remind me, I do want to get to number 4. Eccentricity of an ellipse is, of any one, is actually the ratio of C over A. Okay? It is the distance between the foci, which is actually 2C, divided by the distance between the vertices would be 2A, so it would reduce to C over A. The good news is it's on your reference sheet. Can you find this on your reference sheet somewhere? It's actually right underneath the ellipses, isn't it? Okay. And so what you need to know out of all this is that the eccentricity equals C over A. Now you're going to go, what in the heck is eccentricity? Well, eventually we're going to talk about eccentricity because it's the distance between the foci on the top. What happened when I did my circle over there? The foci were right on top of each other, right? So the eccentricity of a circle is 0, and therefore it looks like this. But as the eccentricity gets bigger, what happens to the, yes, it gets stretched further and further, okay? So eccentricity is a number that compares the stretch to other figures. That's all you have to know. You'd have to be able to find it. So do you have example 3 or no? Okay. Let's just do the 2 you have then. Number 6 and 7, you have those? All right. Number 6, what is A squared? It's always the bigger one, so it's 25, no matter whether it's in the front or the back. And B squared is 16. To find eccentricity, we need C. And how do we find C? C squared equals A squared minus B squared, which is 9. So C is 3. And what's the definition of eccentricity? C over A. And A on this one would have been 5. So it's just 3 over 5, or 0.6. It says find it exactly, but I think at the end on the quiz it asks you to change it to a decimal, just because then everybody's answer will be the same. All right, and if you look up here, you could compare it here, and the squish would be somewhere in between here and here, okay? Yeah, it's a squish factor, that's what I'm gonna call it. On this one, this ellipse actually goes longer up and down. Does everybody see that? Because the bigger number's under the y. But what is A squared? And B squared? So C squared would be 64 minus 9, or 55. Did I do that right? So C is the square root of 55. And E would be what over what? Square root of 55 over 8. Can somebody divide that out and give me a decimal? Yes. Now, this is a huge, important issue. If you don't put, the 8 shouldn't be under the radicals, what happened, right? But look back here. On your sheet, what does it say down here? Recall that for an ellipse, the eccentricity is greater than 0 and less than 1. So there is a hint on your sheet if you did something wrong, okay? So you just typed it wrong, you're all good. Square root of 55 over 8 was what again? 0.93. It should be less than 1. Now 0.93 is actually a really big stretch. It would be long and skinny like this. All right, I have 4 minutes. I'm going to go back and do number 4. All right, the vertices are at -2, -4. So left 2 down 4, left 2 up 8. So which way is this going if those are the vertices? Up and down. So which one am I looking at? Which recipes? Left ones or right ones? The right recipes. Okay. I actually could do this one without my recipe card because how long is this? From -2, 8 down to, it is 12. So what does that make A? 6, because A is the distance from the center to here. So A is going to be 6, but we can talk about how to use the recipe. Now the minor axis has a length of 10. What does that mean about how far it went either way? 5 either way, so what does that mean? B is going to be 5, okay? But I'll show you how to do it. Okay, the other, before we go any further, vertices, how do we find the center? Okay, so the center is at -2 plus -2 divided by 2 is -2. And -4 plus 8 is 4 divided by 2 is 2. So this is the center, so this is H and K. All right, the recipe for vertices when it's going sideways is H plus or minus A comma K. So pick a vertice, which one do you want to use? -2, -4 is supposed to equal 8 H, which was -2 plus or minus A, and K was supposed to be +2. What did I mess up already? Oh, it was going up and down. Yes, you gave me the wrong recipe for vertices because I looked at the wrong recipe for vertices. The recipe for vertices when it's going up and down is H comma K plus or minus A. Thank you. So -2, -4 is equal to -2 comma +2 is K plus or minus A. So right here, -4 has to equal 2 plus or minus what? You subtract 2, don't you get -6? Didn't I already figure that out up top? Okay. All right. Recipe or final answer? X plus 2 quantity squared plus y minus 2 quantity squared equals 1. And what goes under the x's? A or b squared. How far was it going out either direction in the x direction? So this is a 25. And up and down, so it's a 36. All right. So writing equations is the tricky part for most students. On the quiz, guys, there's one graph it and find everything. There's one complete the square and just tell me what the equation looks like. There's one write the equation. And one find the eccentricity.